And ladies and gentlemen, Estella Banks.
Thank you so much, Melinda. I appreciate your support on this, your technical support. So, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us again for this second webinar of the Motivation and Persistence for Adult Learners, the Facilitated Online Course. I have to put away my water bottle, sorry. Um, so, I feel like my computer is responding slowly because of the heat, but here we are. So our agenda today is we're going to talk a little bit about the course timeline. So we'll review what we've done so far, talk about our objectives for this webinar, and then we'll start talking about some of the other strategies like modeling literacy and learning strategies, breaking down and scaffolding, and think aloud. So on breaking down and scaffolding, we're going to have a breakout session. So just be ready for that potentially, depending on how many are in the group at the time. And then we're going to go into using assessment results and talking about your capstone assignment, and then we'll wrap up the webinar for today. So far in this course, we've been focusing on what you can do in the classroom to use the 9 strategies for increasing student motivation and persistence. Last time when we met, as you can see, we had an overview of goals and growth mindset and the 9 strategies for increasing motivation and persistence. So we looked at strategies for building student self-efficacy in particular, and then we followed up with practice, encouraging perseverance and managing errors in week 2. This week, we are zeroing in on helping our students set goals, and then we'll be learning more about the action research in order to help us with your capstone assignment. And then today, we'll expand our knowledge on motivation and persistence by modeling literacy and learning strategies and developing skills and tactics for providing feedback on assessments. Also, we'll learn how to help students set goals and overcome barriers. We will have an opportunity to further talk about your capstone project and conceptualize it, and then plan your assignment. And then finally, in week 4, we'll complete the action plan and share it with others in the Moodle. So remember, everyone who successfully completes this course, so all of the assignments and has attended or done a makeup assignment for the webinars, will be eligible for a completion certificate with 4 hours of professional, 14 hours, of professional development from CalPro. And you can also apply to receive continuing education credits or units through the California State University in Sacramento. So by the end of this today's webinar, you'll be able to, drum roll, model 3 learning strategies, provide supportive feedback on assessment results, and create an action research plan. So this is one piece that will help us meet the goal. So each of these 3 together will get us closer to your action research. Now that we're going to transition to some specific literacy and learning strategies that we can model in our classroom. Something that can overwhelm or frustrate students and have a negative impact or effect on motivation is being given a complex assignment without necessary scaffolding. Let's turn to the chat for a moment. So if you could share in the chat the answer to your question, to this question, what does scaffolding mean to you?
Sometimes it's like understanding also like different students may need different scaffolds. And so usually I try to think about like how my students have been doing, and thinking about like if they, for example, if they've been absolutely schmoovin on the lessons, I may not provide as much scaffolding. If they need more assistance, I'd provide more scaffolding. One of the biggest things I do is I do a planned line of questioning to help them get to the answer of a question instead of just telling them what the answer is, or like if they get the answer wrong, asking questions to help them catch their own mistake rather than just telling them that what the correct answer is.
Okay. All right. So any other thoughts? I'm looking at the chat and it's kind of crickets over here. Thank you, Heather, for your verbal response. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to go continue. Okay, so here, Jeffrey, I see a message. Structuring the material or project into a series of steps and providing assistance at the level required to help them complete the task. So good. Yes. That is one scaffolding definition for sure. Okay, so whether you are teaching an on the ground or in-person class or online component, carefully planning your class activities and planning a lot of your structure so that your instruction progresses from foundational concepts before progressing to more complex processes and will give your students a better chance of success. So offering students frequent opportunities to succeed is in a low stakes task as they work toward more complex and higher stakes assignments corresponds to Bandura's self-efficacy theory. So repeated, albeit small successes, feed students belief in their ability to succeed. To scaffold content in a course that uses an LMS, an online learning system like Moodle, or other online class, you can use the settings for conditionally releasing the material, the items in your Moodle, in your modules to ensure that students don't jump ahead until they've mastered some of the previous foundational content. So as we've established the importance of scaffolding, we're now going to go back and go on and look at an assignment that needs some scaffolding. And before I do that, I noticed that there was a chat. So Scott says, I have students learning isometric CAD drawing. So CAD is computer aided drawing. The lessons are scaffolded from simple lines through complex dimensioning, and they are thriving, doing awesome. So that's great. So yes, I did remember reading something that Scott posted about starting the students off with drawing their designs first on paper and then letting them loose on the computer, and how important that was to build that up. Okay, so let's say we're teaching an advanced ESL class or an ABE, Adult Secondary English class, and we need to assess our students' writing at least 3 times. So I decided to start with an easier topic for the first writing assignment. In this case, maybe ask the students to write about something they know that will also help them get to know them better. That will help me get to know them better. So I asked them to write a narrative paragraph about a mistake that they've made and what they learned and how they improved. So I have a question. I would like for a volunteer to read this assignment prompt that you see on the slide, and then we'll do a little chat. So any volunteers? Okay. So write about the following topic, answer the questions, demonstrating your answers by telling a story from your life. What is the biggest mistake you've ever made, and tell the story of that mistake? What important lessons did you learn, and how did making that mistake help you improve? So then looking at this, how could we break down this assignment? What would you have your students do first? So let's take a moment to discuss what you can do and what you can do. Sorry, what you actually do and what you can do to help your students get started on this assignment or any assignment that might feel complex or difficult? Do I have any volunteers to share their thoughts? I saw something in the chat. Jeffrey says tough crowd. Yeah, it's a quiet afternoon. Okay, so I see a brainstorming would be something to help your students. Yes, brainstorming is a good one. Outlining, absolutely. Bullet points, okay. And so graphic organizer, okay. These are all excellent ways to help your students get started with their writing. Is there anything that the teacher, perhaps who's teaching in a lower level ESL, might consider for helping their students get started?
Separate it into separate things. Like first, just start with the, like, what is the story of the mistake you made? Like, this
Yes.
feels like a lot, especially to throw it at an ESL student as one big chunk. It feels like an overwhelming task. So if you break it into smaller tasks.
Yeah, definitely. So I also see in the comment, thank you, Heather, interactive writing and editing, list examples for each question, rules for sentence writing, paragraph writing. Yes, these are all examples. Thank you for your engagement. All right, so those were some great strategies, and thank you for breaking that. We do need to break down the big assignment for our students. So let's look at how we could do that for this particular assignment. So one of them would be to tell an anecdote from your own life about a mistake that you made and how you coped, and then what you learned from that experience. Or you could even find a video of someone who is famous talking about a big mistake. And then another option would be to explain the assignment with samples from former students or or a model that you've written, along with a rubric that you will use to score your students. My apologies, to score your students' paragraphs, right? So the assignment models that you can provide give the structure that they, especially a lower level ESL student, that they might need to get started, right? I heard Heather say, oh, this seems like it would be very difficult, but I believe with sentence frames and examples and maybe a mix and match of some sentences would really help them. All right, so in pairs or small groups, you could have your students talk about their mistakes, for example, with a listening and feedback guide, and then do some free writing, or provide an outline for the paragraph and have students fill in some of their writing from their free writing. So as this narrative writing illustrates, we need to scaffold our lessons and to better break down and the task, and also to help the students learn strategies for breaking down any big assignment. So when I said that we would look at 3 learning strategies, today we can count this as 2 of them. We can break down a task to scaffold learning for students, but this is also a way to help students learn to break their own tasks down for themselves. So we get double credit here. I want to make sure I'm not missing your comments. Okay, so I see that a graphic organizer is also brought up as a potential way to scaffold. So that's awesome. So let's try scaffolding with another assignment. Imagine that you are an adult secondary science teacher. Some of you might already be in that role. The last units you have taught have been around the natural environment and climate change. You would like your students to make a poster presentation about climate change. This topic is very broad and you think that it may be too hard for your class. So what are some ways that you can scaffold this assignment? So in this I'm going to bring Melinda on. We're going to copy this question to the chat, and then this slide is going to go with you into a breakout room. So your rooms will be 2 to 3 people, 3 to 4 people, depending.
They're going to have, there'll be 2 rooms of 3 and 1 room of 4, if that's okay.
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 And then, Melinda, I think I need to give you slide control, yes?
Yeah, just so you're going to have to stop the share here. So everyone, Estella is going to maybe drop in your room. You don't know. It'll be a surprise if she does. But you all will be going into a room. And Estella, I need you to stop share all the way.
Okay.
Okay. When I hit the button that I have on the breakout rooms, it should just send you there, but off to the side, you might see a little message that says, do you want to go to the breakout? Just say yes. Okay. Otherwise, I'm going to shoot you there anyway. All right. Within a couple of seconds, you'll see the slide that Estella was sharing come up on your screen and you can fuss and discuss. Someone's going to have to talk. So everyone's been silent except Heather so far. So someone's going to have to start talking in the breakout room. So make sure you unmute yourself. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to open up the rooms and you're all going to get sent there.
Thank you, Melinda.
And as soon as everyone goes, Carolina, are you having some problems? Oh, there she goes. Okay, so now I'm going to share slide 10. As soon as I find it, there we go. I wonder if they see it.
I'm going to room 3
Okay,
right
good.
now, so I'll go check
Good.
and then I'll go back to the others because I
Thank
see
you.
activity happening in the rooms, except
Cool.
room 2. So, and 3. Well, let me go over there and see what's going on.
Get him. Interesting. Now I can see the microphones working on this one. Well, we couldn't before. Marion, I don't know if you're listening.
What?
On previous meetings, we couldn't see the microphone
Oh
moving.
yeah, now they're back.
Now they're back. Yeah.
That's weird, but good.
Hi, Jackie. I'm going to assign you to a room. There's a breakout in progress, and just ask them what they're supposed to do. Okay.
When else comes in, you can just tell them when they get in the room, they'll see the slide that's explaining what they're doing.
Oh, duh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Estella, you're muted.
Hadn't started talking yet, thank goodness.
Okay.
I'm I think I forgot to mention how much time they had. Did you put a timer on the room?
I did, and we've got right at the halfway mark, 3 minutes left.
Okay. Because in one of the
It's supposed to be
groups,
6, so if you want it to be longer or
no,
shorter,
that's fine.
okay.
Because one of the groups I checked in on, they were almost done. So
Oh, okay.
the size of the room is good. This one also, I keep seeing that somebody is, I want to say Jackie Okeke, but I thought I saw her in a room. Oh yeah, she's in a room.
Oh, well, there's 2 Jackies. I sent a Jackie into a
Mm,
room when she came, so maybe it's a phone. Oh my gosh. If she's got her phone in one and her computer in another, that's
mm-hmm.
weird. She's on
Yeah.
video. It, yeah, I don't know if there's 2 Jackies in this course or not.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
That
She's
name
on
doesn't.
video in room 2, so she's probably in room 2. I mean, she's probably participating in room 2, but she's not
Mhm.
talking.
I see. Yeah, she's not talking in room 2. Interesting.
But she's not talking in room 1 either, so.
Hmm.
Oh well, it'll be over in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you want me to give them a 1-minute warning?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Estella, when I closed the rooms, it was set to 60 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So close the room. It'll take a minute before I mean, they could see the message and then come right back, or they won't be
Mm-hmm.
sent back until after that minute is over.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I didn't see the timer on here, so that's why I was like, no, do we know?
yeah, I'm the
Okay.
timer.
Should I go ahead and reshare my screen?
Sure, I can stop share.
Oh, because one of the groups that I went in, they were saying that they were waiting to see the slide in the room.
Oh,
It wasn't there,
I've just
so
stopped share, so go ahead and share.
okay.
And they're coming back in 15 seconds. I'm going to hit the button. Then they've got another minute after that.
Okay.
And here we go. We're closing rooms.
Thank you.
And there's someone in the waiting room that's going to be coming in as well.
Yeah, I see Robin.
Okay.
Hello, friends, and welcome back. I see more of you have your cameras on, so thank you. Um, I want to thank you for your participation. I did pop into a couple of groups, and I'm glad to hear the conversation that I heard. But I'd like for y'all to share, maybe from each group, share some thoughts that you brought up about scaffolding this assignment with the main group, if you don't mind.
Sure. The first group,
Pardon, Derek?
the first.
Is
Oh,
it
sorry.
was it Derek or Jeffrey talking? Sorry.
Maybe both. You mean the first group?
Yes, in your
Oh,
group.
okay.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, one moment before we do that, Jeffrey. Jackie, okay, thank you. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
okay. I was thinking you could do the scaffolding by having the students scaffolded. I don't think it would matter what level of ESL you were working with. Or people have an idea how to put things together, and they could come up with the structure of the lesson. Like, what are we going to do first? What are we going to do next? What will this thing have? And then have them write that up on a big chart paper.
Mm-hmm.
So that they're actually participating in creating the scaffolding that then everybody could assist with.
Okay, thank you. And how about in group 2?
Um, this is Daniel. We actually
Okay.
shared some things in common in our by chance that we
Mhm.
have open enrollment and we have various like skills. I guess a bigger range than like a grade level skill set or from the students coming in,
Mhm.
and also it's an open enrollment, so there's a lot of variables there. But we
Mhm.
talked about maybe either taking like kind of serving maybe the brainstorming as everybody, not like assigning groups. We thought like we agreed with you like a lot of times if you start, okay, you're a group, you're a group, you're a group, then
Mhm.
you're like, oh no, oh gosh, I'm stuck with this, or I have to participate or whatever. Just have a
Uh,
big group first, get the ball
mm.
rolling, get the conversation started, then leading to okay, now I want you guys to think about, reflect what we've talked about, and talk with some of your peers, and then putting the groups together so that
Okay.
they don't feel like, oh no, a group thing. Here I go. I got to do, because the conversation started already, and they've kind
Yeah.
of like activated, hopefully.
Okay. Great. Thank you. And may I have a volunteer from group 3 to share some of the ideas that you discussed?
I don't know what group I was in, but I could share.
Okay.
Our group was. We talked about having examples. So we kind of went about it not in a group, but as an individual project. So we talked about having examples, having the students know what websites would be helpful to look up information, how to get pictures, kind of the basics. And then we touched on like kind of like backward design, like starting with the rubric and
Mm.
having all the material already outlined. So what the expectation is, like what are the components that should be in the poster to
Mhm.
kind of guide that, like, okay, now you know what would be the grading, what is expected, the final product, and then the sample to support that, and then go from there.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Awesome. These are great examples. So,
One other thing
yes.
we
Mhm.
talked about is maybe offering, like taking their ideas before we say that it has to be a poster or this or that, because a lot of times they're
Mm.
very creative and they'll come up with things that, like, number one, we didn't necessarily think about,
Mhm.
and so it really kind of opens it up a bit. And like I've had students incorporate whatever multimedia stuff or
Mm. Yeah.
poetry or songs, all kinds of different things that I'm like, wow, I hadn't really even considered that.
Yeah.
So you kind of get permission to go outside before if we want to put a parameter on it,
Mhm.
if it's
Great. Thank you.
whatever.
Yeah. I agree. Thank you so much, Daniel. These are some great examples. And in a world rich in media, there's, obviously a poster um, can be shared in multiple ways. It doesn't have to be pen and paper, right? So those are wonderful examples to break it down, scaffold the lesson for the students, and let them be involved in their own learning. Yes. Okay, so one effective literacy and learning strategy is called a think aloud. So when you use this strategy, you're going to model through thought and questioning process aloud your metacognition so that your students can understand the process of how skilled readers interact with and construct meaning from text or solve a problem, as in math, for example, right? The idea is that your students will then similarly use effective thought processes that will help them learn better and improve their comprehension. This process shouldn't be complicated. If you're reading a text, you can stop at certain points that might be confusing and challenging for your students, and then you ask yourself questions to show how you are connecting with the content and connecting it to previously learned content, and then using it to confirm understanding. If your read aloud is of a text first model pre-reading strategy, such as looking at the title, the header, the pictures, the captions, graphs, maps, charts, and the number of pages, and also if there's a table of contents or an outline, right? And you can say your thoughts out loud, modeling the way that you make predictions. So as you read, stop and summarize periodically. And in addition, model for students the need to reread sentences for clarification and to use context clues. So here are effective starters and questions that you can use during the Think Aloud. So for example, so far I have learned, what do I know about this topic? Do I understand what I have just read? This made me think of, what more can I do to understand what I'm reading? I think the most important part was, and I think blank will happen next. What new information did I just learn? So when you repeatedly model and think aloud as you read and write explicitly, showing your students the mental strategies that are involved to construct meaning. So by now you have either learned or refined techniques for breaking down and scaffolding a complex assignment, as well as a text with think alouds. We're going to turn now to everyday classroom routines and strategies that will help your students learn better, get organized, and be more persistent. So in the chat, please share your thoughts about what is an effective strategy or activity that you have used to help your students learn or to motivate and persist. I'm already seeing, okay, so this is Melinda posting in the chat the question. So what is an effective strategy or activity that you've used to help your students learn or to motivate? So I see an answer from Scott. I use Think Alouds, although I didn't know what it was called. So when I model how to create a drawing, I talk out loud asking what will happen next, each step of the way, and spark their I can do it attitude. Awesome. So what is an effective strategy or activity that you have used? As the assistant principal, I lead all the orientations and visit classrooms a couple of times a day and chat with students. I tell them it was good to see them. Okay. So that's a great motivational, connecting with the students. And then, let's see, I have them explain how they got their answer so that we can learn from each other and understand their own thoughts better. Great, that's from Heather, thank you. Jackie says, I have the students text me when they are going to be absent. Okay, so that's a way to help motivate and persist. Provide an agenda and go over it so that the students know what is next. Yes, yes, exactly. That's from Daniel. And then we try to connect the subject matter to real world goals. Thank you. That's from Robin. Okay. And one more, play games and reward them to motivate. We underestimate the need for play, right, in the classroom, even with adults. Okay. So I didn't see anyone, let's see, words of encouragement and homework reminders via text or messaging. Let's see. Yes, they love it, especially with adults. Yes, we do. Frequent low stakes quizzes. Explain the benefits of working in pairs. There's often an underestimated need for contextualizing what we're doing and how that applies to what the other things that are going on in their lives. So yeah, these are some great learning strategies. All right, let's take a look at another learning strategy is assessing our students. So we all are involved in assessing our students in one way or another. And informally, formally, formative, summative, etc. Right? So the next strategy we're going to talk about is using those assessment results appropriately. So how do you share student test results or assignment scores with them? And what do you do What do your students do with the information? So you're welcome to come off mute and give your thoughts. You can add something in the chat.
I do high school equivalency, and I just switched us over to a system where students can see their practice test results and like the correct answers when they got them wrong. So they can review the correct answers individually right then and there. And then from there, between my partner and I, we usually figure out a time that we can then do some one-on-one or small group checking in with them of like, hey, were there any that you looked at and you don't understand why the right answer was the right answer? And then we'll walk through those individual ones with them. And then we also have it so it will give us the data feedback of like what content area or like what type of question the student was struggling with the most, so we can help them focus their studying and like review those topics with them that they're struggling with the most.
Great, thank you. Okay, so some best practices. I think Heather covered some of this. Provide assessment results privately. Encourage your students to focus on the effort or an improvement, not on the number, and to compare their previous scores with their own previous scores and not with the class. And when possible, allow your students to complete the assessment again if they feel that the score doesn't accurately reflect their ability. And then the last one, yes?
Oh, when we're talking about assessment, I just feel it's really important, at least for my students who, it takes a lot to kind of like come back to school to re-enter the program or the system or whatever. So I really think even before you get to assessment, just really explain the constructive nature of it, and that to let go of kind of like expectations. Just do your best effort, and we'll see. Like don't make it like, oh, you should know this, or I mean try to dispel that as much as you can, because they inevitably will do that. They will put expectations on themselves, and if we can kind of just say, look, we've done no preparation, we've done no prep, so this is really just to kind of see where you are today thing, and yeah, just give it your effort.
Yeah, that's especially true in the case of the CASAS when, people start feeling a little stressed out about doing the
Yeah.
CASAS test. And some of it, of course, all of it depends on how we're communicating that with our students, the reason for the CASAS and how the results will be used and things like that. So yeah, you definitely, and then the other is the last best practice is to have your students chart their test results over time so that they can see their own progress, because this is all about looking at mastery versus performance, right? It's not about having the perfect answer, because if they had the perfect answer, they wouldn't be in school, right? So it's helping them to see that forest for the trees, so to speak. So we want to de-emphasize competition and emphasize mastery, personal mastery. Okay, so what else can you do to direct students to focus on mastery goals instead of performance goals, or students competing with one another? So here's a situation. What a student who just received a low test score on an assignment begins asking their classmates, what scores did they get? So how would you share this with your students? What could you say to the student? What are some things you could share to encourage the student in this case? Okay, so if it's okay, oh, here's one. Their score on the test doesn't affect your score. That's a good one. So another student's score does not affect that person. It's not a contest. We all have different academic experience and history. Oh, this is very profound, for sure. Everyone is coming from a different place and experience educationally. I share the individual situation may be different. Yes, very good. So you can also inquire with the student, for example, what part of the test was challenging and what part did they feel confident about? And talk about how the assessment really is a way to look at what they are currently. It's like a snapshot of the current situation, of their current abilities and ability, to work with the information. And Jeffrey says any score on an assessment is just the place where you begin. So great, thank you. And I see two more. I will tell the student. So this is Olukemi, I think is Olan. So Olukemi said, I will tell the students that their skills will improve with practice. And Daniel says, look for areas to acknowledge strength and effort. Yes. Okay, scenario number 2. A student whose test scores decrease in comparison with their last test and is upset, and they were sick on the day of the test, but came to class because they knew the test was important. So what would you say to the student in this case? My apologies. What would you say to the student who their score decreased? Would you perchance give them another opportunity to do the assessment? Yes, let's take that test again when you feel better, for sure. Scores may vary from day to day. The chat's coming in hot now. Scores will vary from day to day. Do your best to make sure you take care of your body leading up to when you take the actual test. I'll ask the student if they would like to take the test again. Thank them for the conscientiousness, but don't come to school sick. They aren't able to perform when they're well. And then you tried your best under the circumstances. Would you like to try again? Great job and persevering even though you were sick. Maybe we can retest. Great. These are great responses. Thank you. Okay, so now as we prepare to close our second webinar, which of the 9 strategies have we discussed so far? So in our webinars, we've explicitly discussed feedback for growth mindset, modeling for literacy and learning strategies, use of assessment results. We've also discussed how self-efficacy and community building is at the heart of motivation and persistence. We've also covered many other strategies online, asynchronously. Do you remember which ones we covered online so far? So, setting appropriate goals, growth mindset, encouraging collaboration and cooperation. Heather says choice and autonomy. Thank you. That was the next one on my list. Finding value in learning. And we've also explored asynchronously the role of distance learning, the role that distance learning can play in motivating and persisting students. Oh, good. Overcoming barriers. This is another one I forgot to mention. Yes, collaboration and cooperation. We can't control when we get sick. You did well. Okay, so this is a response to the student not doing well on the test. We can't control when we get sick. You did well fighting to stay upright. Give yourself some grace. Those are great ways. So coming back to our revisiting the 9 strategies. All of these are great lessons and strategies that are happening online. And as we turn to our final week and a half, we've come to the two most important considerations in encouraging our students, which is overcoming barriers and addressing stereotype threat. The lessons and activities for these two topics will be covered this week before we create our action plan. So be sure to complete these and as soon as possible so that you'll have every tool in your tool belt to be ready to complete your capstone assignment. So for the final activity of this course, you will write a plan for action research, which means that you will simply consider you will conduct research on the effectiveness of any of the strategies covered in our webinars or asynchronous activities. During week 4, you will select one strategy as your focus and begin filling out the action research plan template that's available in Moodle. You will have the opportunity to draft your action plan and receive feedback on it. So this week, you will read about the following 7 steps of action research. So the first is to select your focus. So in this case, it would be a strategy that you consider worthy of your time. You want to then clarify the theories, identify the values or beliefs that you hold relating to your focus topic. Then identify the research question. Formulate a set of meaningful research questions to lead your inquiry. Then you'll collect data. This step can be easily accomplished in your classroom by observation or other data that can be things like test results, class discussions, student self-assessment, surveys, and questionnaires. Step 5 is to analyze your data. This step doesn't have to have complex statistical calculations. As a teacher researcher, you will methodically sift and sort, rank, and examine your data to answer 2 generic questions. What is the story told by this data? And why did the story play out this way? And then the last step, the step 6 is to report your results. This can be done at a conference, in a teacher's meeting, or even during a class break. The point is that you want to share your findings with your peers to benefit your program and your students. And then step 7 is to take informed action. That is, this is what you will probably already do on the daily basis of information gathering, formal and informal, anecdotal, statistical data about your students, their needs, and their progress each time your class meets. So for this assignment, you will share your strategy, your research question, what you will do, expected results, and then how you will measure the effects. So here's an example of an action research plan. So first, the strategy would be helping students overcome their barriers. The research question, does texting students improve motivation and attendance? What will I do? I will create pre and post survey for our students about if, how, and how often they receive communication from their teacher, which would be me, outside of class, and how it helps or doesn't help them. Text your students motivating messages, homework, and school event reminders for 2 weeks. Note the responses, the response rates, and quality. Then administer the post survey. Continuing on, you want to think about your expected results. So perhaps you expect that you would see a 10% increase in student persistence and a 20% increase in attendance hours. And how will you measure those effects? Then you will do comparative analysis of data with the previous class in which you didn't implement the strategy. So as we come to the end of our time together, let's take a few moments to reflect. So for this reflection, respond in writing to the following prompts. My aha moment, the most interesting or useful thing I've learned in this course, a change I will make based on what I have learned, a challenge I will face in implementing this change, whom or what will I call on to help me face this challenge, and I am excited about blank. So I will give you a couple of moments. We are coming close to the end of our time, so I want to make sure we honor each other's time. But please share with the larger group your answer or response to one of these reflection questions. Okay, Stephanie shares, I'm excited about the action research project, just wondering how to do it since I am not a teacher. I'm a counselor and want to gather the data. Uh-huh. A great question, Stephanie. And I invite others who are in the room that might be counselors to share their thoughts, or teachers. And Jeffrey says, challenge in implementing change, tracking through data collection if the change is effective. My aha moment is realizing that my habit of think alouds is an established teaching technique. Daniel is excited about the action plan. There are some logistical challenges in with some of the tools, but I am excited to try them anyway. One of my aha moments was realizing the correlation between grit and growth mindset. Oh, yes, they do go hand in hand. Okay. Let's see. For a counselor, any ideas on what a counselor can do? The most interesting or useful things are different strategies, which I will try out. Yes. Thank you, Olukemi. Olukemi. Daniel. Okay, so with the counselor, this one might be more of a longitudinal type of research, but you could try it with a few students to see what the result is if you do follow-up questions, follow-up encouragement, text messaging, things like that. I see Stephanie came from the mute, so let's go. What you've got on your mind?
I just, it's funny because your example is what we do in counseling. So I'm just like, oh, that would have been a good one, but I don't want to do the same thing because we do a lot of attendance outreach, progress outreach. So for me, that would be like the go-to is just kind of selecting the pool. Like, who do I want to target? Do I want to target morning, afternoon, evening? Do I do a little bit of each one and see what the difference is? So, I mean, I like the example you provided. I just don't want to do the same thing.
Yeah, that's the first one that comes to mind, but I will be thinking of another, and maybe we'll chat in the Moodle to think about some others, or maybe do some Google searching, because that is a good one to think about, as a counselor. Let's see. Derek says, I've learned so much in this course. I've learned the difference between performance goals and mastery goals, and was even able to speak about them at a staff meeting. Great. I have used growth mindset with my students and my son, and I have become aware of stereotypical barriers. And, Stephanie, speaking of the growth mindset, it would be perhaps that could be one of the things that you do, that you select a small group of students, that you share the whole idea of growth mindset with them, and then watch their attendance over the next 10 days or something like that, or some other performance measure.
You just gave me an idea. So we do growth mindset lessons. So I have data, I have pre and post survey data, but from some time ago, but I could go back and look at their attendance to see the before and after. So thank you.
You're welcome.
That helps.
You're very welcome. Okay, so thank you all for sharing your reflections. My apologies. I keep scrolling through. I have a mouse with scroll wheel, and I've got the trigger finger on the wrong place. Okay, so let's move on. I really appreciate hearing and reading your reflections. That's really awesome. Okay, so a couple of dates to note. You want to do by Wednesday, a week from today, you want to do share your action research draft as a discussion. You'll post that and then reply to a colleague by Friday. And then by Sunday, then you'll want to complete and submit your action research plan. So that feedback, your colleagues are depending on you to come back in, look at their drafts, give them feedback so that they can make the revisions and submit their final. So hopefully you can put that on your calendar, make time so so we can help each other. All right. Any questions that I might be able to answer in the next couple of minutes? Okay. So if you have other longer questions that you'd like to ask, you can definitely put those into the burning questions thread or send me a chat message and I can work with you to answer those questions. And you're very welcome. Thank you for your participation. Oh, it's okay, Robin. Thank you for your participation and engagement in this session today. And I look forward to continuing to see your posts in the discussion boards online. And remember that you can earn continuing education unit once you've completely successfully completed this course. You will get a certificate for 14 hours of professional development, and then you can request or claim the CEU units by responding to completing an application or a form to do that. Just get in touch with a member of the team.